Well, Keith, it has been a long journey through the winter, through the hills, through bad weather, going out to the 7 regions, and now it's culminated in the inaugural summit, Metis Summit, April 16th, and we're about an hour before the agenda begins. What are your thoughts now? It's a pretty big moment.
I actually am, in spite of all the work I've done and with our communities and, on a volunteer basis with so many good people with the coalition, I'm nervous today. I don't know why. I think it's going to be a great day. I mean, I'm sort of musing to myself right now. It's 45 minutes before the meeting gets underway, and we've already got about 40 people in the room.
You've already run through a pot of coffee.
Yeah, I'm quite shocked. I guess to me that shows me that people are listening and they care. We're going to have a much stronger technology for broadcasting it online. So I'm really interested to see what that brings up in terms of numbers. So, we've said from the very beginning that our number one sort of mandate was to ensure that the MNBC was transparent and accountable to its citizens. We don't want this to be a day where we're just talking about how bad individual people are within the MNBC. I think the purpose of today was to really get back to the roots of why we set up Métis governance in BC to begin with, like what's sort of somewhat of the legal context, some of the educational understandings, the history, talk about who we are today in the 21st century. There's a lot of things to talk about, and I think us getting back to our roots was really the brainchild, if you will, of the summit. One other thing too I thought was important for the summer when we were working with our sort of executive team on the coalition, we were trying to sort of get to a point where we thought the MNBC would have their debt recovery plan out and we could really have a good analysis and a good discussion with the people, because the MNBC had assured everyone at the most recent Métis Nation Governing Assembly in February, so it's now basically over 2 months ago, that their debt recovery plan, because that's one of our big issues facing the nation today, and they haven't released it yet. So, I am a bit disappointed that at least wasn't out there, so that would be part of what we were going to talk about at the summit, but nevertheless, there's lots of issues to talk about.
I find it interesting that in this middle of an election, a federal election, and with probably one looming not too far behind here in British Columbia, you have an NDP and a Liberal spokesperson coming to address this first ever Métis Summit. That's the kind of recognition that usually is reserved for rather august bodies who've been around a while. How do you read the fact that they came?
Well, I think the fact that we do have political interests, and we tried to be nonpartisan in that we offered it to both the front-running leading provincial parties, and they've taken us up on that. I think that what we tried to do, or how I read this, I guess, is that they're paying attention. I mean, there's no doubt to anyone who thinks that the coalition isn't, our citizens aren't engaged, I think would be somewhat uneducated about it, because the fact is our website has roughly 150,000 viewers in really 16 months of operation. People know that there's issues, and it's better that we deal with them is in an open and public and transparent way, which is what we've been saying at the coalition, that is the way government should work. Now, everyone knows mistakes will be made, and I think the fact that the parties are here, maybe they'll see that the Métis people are capable of dealing with their own issues, and that's an important thing. We don't want anyone thinking they got to step in to save the nation. We can do it ourselves.
An interesting remark was made by your cultural ambassador, Beverly, when she said, wouldn't it be ironic in 25 years if it was your now youngest, who's just over 2, was the host of a Métis Summit, and it was the 30th anniversary of such a thing? It could happen from this day forward. You're making history.
I've always been, I think I've tried to be very, I don't want anyone to ever think that I ever felt it was always going to be about me. I've been accused of a lot of things, but that was never why I did this. It was, it's a personal fire inside of me. It's a belief, it's a passion. I've shared on interviews before that it's about watching my grandparents sort of hide who they were, really, it put something in me that no one can take away. Not any political leader, not any adversary, nobody can. And I don't know if my sons will ever rise to want to be involved in that manner, but if they do, I'd be a very proud father. And And if they don't, I'm going to be proud of them anyways. But the fact is, I want them to know who they are. I want them to know where they come from, and that we're all Métis people are proud people, and we can deal with things ourselves.
Thank you.
That we acknowledge our First Nation brothers and sisters and the traditional territory that we're in. And of course, the area that we're in today is, of course, the Squamish and the Tsleil-Waututh. And what I've asked, and I do appreciate and acknowledge, is a good friend of mine, Chief Ian Campbell from the Squamish Nation. So I'll call on Chief Campbell to welcome us to the territory.
To Keith and Chinkomantomi, Tanoyap, Tanapoetos, Yuan Hatli Kwachnomewit, An Hatlis Pawan, Hayachin Tikaka Arab, An Estis Qualties Seats, Image Up at Nomod Entity, Ti Chenchohoik Ochomel, Ti Siemens, Ti Skomesh, Ti Tsalewot, Ti Statapoeos, Ti Haislaltum, Ti Haalcha, Entity, Ti Stoktak, Ti Hoipe Antas Pawan, Eim to Awan, Chinkomantomi. Good morning, everybody, and certainly want to thank Keith for the invitation to be here this morning. It's really great to see a full house here. Really want to commend each of you for taking the time to come together in strength and in unity, to see the children here, to see our elders, to see all the family is such a good opportunity to really advance this chapter of our history. We're all in the same canoe. You know, listening to the elder just speaking just now really reminded me of our own community here, the Squamish Nation, and some of the difficulties that we're going through right now in the minds and the hearts of our people, that we must continue to work together, that is very long history, a proud history that we have, is coming together and practicing our teachings. So I'm very honored to welcome you to our village of Chechilquit. This whole area here was a large village for a very long time. Our people have lived along this river here. The Chechilquit is the name of the river as well. Our band office is just across the street here. Our gas station, make sure you fuel up before you go.
That's free.
Yeah. And we still have many of our loved ones that just live right across the highway here in our village. So it's really good to see you gathered here. It really warms us and lifts our heart to see the good work that is being done. And also the creek that is just behind us here, the name of that creek is Haalcha, and it is a spiritual creek for us. We go to that creek and we bathe and we purify ourselves throughout the year. I really want to ask you to call upon the strength of this land to help guide you, that this land is provided for us for innumerable generations, and it is our hope and desire that it will continue to provide for us into the foreseeable future. So I'm honored to be here with my daughter, Jee, as well. She is here in the back, and it's important for her as a little girl to see this good work being done. So I'm going to share a song with you that is our Chief's Welcome song. This song was sung by Chief Kapalaino as he went to England in 1906 to implore the Crown of that day to seek honor in the Crown in their dealings with First Nations people. And we continue to sing this song over 100 years later, still asking the same question often. Where is the honor in our relationships with Crown? Oftentimes we are the ones marginalized and alienated from our own resources and made to feel like peasants in our own land. This is unacceptable. We are Smanath, we are good people from a long lineage of good people. We must continue to stand together. So let's share our Chief's Welcome song. Hope, Hope, Che, Chin Kumantomi, Wajita. Oh, oh, Che.
Surrey, and I'm the president of the Nova Metis Heritage Association. We've been in existence under that name since 2003, when we had to reincorporate from another group who took over and spent all the money and left us with nothing, and then all walked away and resigned. Seems to be a pattern. Communications are so important. We need to communicate with our citizens. We do that at the Nova Metis Heritage Association in Surrey in several ways. One of the things, we sponsored a Metis Matters radio show. We've been doing that. I've been on the air since 1989. And we have a weekly show. Many of you listen, I'm thinking. A lot of you don't phone in, but it's an open line. It's a talk show. And in fact, I'm going to issue a challenge here right now for any of you to phone that number every Wednesday.
It's a very special occasion, and I'd like to thank Chief Campbell from the Squamish Nation for inviting us and welcoming us all to this territory. It's such an important element of all of the ceremonies in this province, I believe. And to Alan, if you have nervousness about public speaking, you know, when I started in politics, one of my best friends, he used to, every speech that he was in attendance for, afterwards he'd say, "Yeah, great speech, Doug, but your flies on that." He must have got me 5 or 6 times with that until I got wise to him finally. I'm kind of slow, I guess. But then he switched to, "Great speech, your flies up, wet spot." That really made me scared. But nothing scares me. I've got a 15-year-old daughter, you know. So anyway, that's a little bit about what my view on public speaking. Make sure your flies up, and make sure you've got a 15-year-old daughter behind you and you've got the courage for anything. Governance is what I've been asked to speak about. My role in the Parliament of BC as an opposition critic is that of citizen services. And people will say, well, what does that mean? And with a lot of ministries, it's a what does that mean kind of when you hear the title. Citizen service is one of the main functions that is embodied in that is freedom of information, open governance, and the protection of privacy, personal information. Those are very important notions. We all, I think, everyone participating here is concerned about open governance, is concerned about their community and how we are governed. And that is an essential element of everything that flows from it. If we don't have the foundation stones of a firm, open democracy, we lose the transparency. And I think you may have seen that within your own organization. So when we talk about these issues, they have an importance beyond even what people are able to understand themselves without looking very closely. When technology threatens our privacy, when technology threatens our ability to access information when it should enhance it, we are reminded of the moose hunters. 2 moose hunters who are out trying to bag the moose. They've got a license, they get the moose, they're dragging the moose back to the truck by the hind legs. and they're having a terrible time. They're making almost no progress. It's a terrible, terrible hot day, and they're suffering. They're fighting with each other. Finally, the wildlife officer comes along, and he says, you know, you guys, after he checks their license, of course, he says, you know, you guys, you'd probably make a lot better progress if you got on either side of the antlers and pulled it the other way. And so they tried it. They got on the other side of the antlers and they started pulling on the moose, and they were making great progress. And one guy says to the other, you know, this is great. That guy was really smart. This is an excellent way to drag the moose. He says, yeah, but we're getting further and further away from the truck.
Locally, so I'm not here because I was set to be the government representative. I'm here because I want to be here, because I am Métis, and my Métis heritage, being Métis, is very important to me. And I want to see our community thrive and grow in every possible way. So it's so thank you for coming here. Thank you for the discussion. I think that's important. The communication, the ideas to bring these things forward. I'm here to listen, to participate, and to bring the recommendations, suggestions forward, and to help in any way that I possibly can. And Doug, you mentioned that we were across aisle from each other. Well, Doug, I have to correct you. We were actually on the same aisle, on the same side. You were just about two people from me. We wrapped around. So I think the last session we got split up. But it's been a pleasure working with Doug. We actually worked on the Freedom of Information and Privacy Act and reviewing that. And I appreciate the work that you have done on that. And what you see on question period, with the yelling and the theatrics, it's not always like that. You can have a good rapport, and it's a working together. Yes, there's different dynamics, there's different point of views, and those point of views are important and they're valuable, because from that, and whether it's energy and vision and perspective, from that you can actually take some steps forward. And so that's my hope, even in this time here together, that we are able to bring some things forward and to help our community to grow.
So you're at the inaugural Metis Summit, and you can hear that there's people in the room who are looking to discover their past and become proud. And I think everyone was quite taken by surprise that you yourself share with the people in the room the Métis heritage.
Yes, no, I've always known I've been Native, but I'd say it's the past couple of decades, 15, 20 years, that has become more and more importance to me, and I know that's not just myself, my whole family. So it's great to be here today, and just to hear discussion and concerns, and I'm glad to be able to participate in this.
Mark Dalton, you're a representative from Mission Maple Ridge. Is there Métis culture going on there? Do you detect anything going on in your riding, or is it like everywhere else, it's pockets of culture, pockets of education?
Well, we're part of the Fraser Valley also, and so I've been to different events. I know Lisa Lapointe has been really pushing things in locally Maple Ridge, and we've started an Aboriginal community center in Maple Ridge. So things are percolating a bit, but definitely have a long ways to go. And there are probably, I was a teacher for many years prior to politics, and I know that in the Maple Ridge school district, there's about 1,000 students that are Native, and of which about 80% are Métis, and in the Mission, it's about 700. So there's definitely a lot of families, a lot of people that are Métis, and that need to reconnect with the culture.
So with what you pick up today and learn, will you be invited by your caucus, or perhaps Mary Polak, the new minister on the file, to share your thoughts about what went on today and what the purpose of it was?
Well, I'll bring forward different issues, and I know that there was a desire for me to be able to come and connect with the Minister of Aboriginal Affairs and Reconciliation. So yes, there'll be that communication.
Well, Mark, it's wonderful to see you here. You're wearing your sash.
Yeah.
If I could get a shot of that. Yeah. So that was just a bit of icing on the cake. Thank you so much for coming.
Great to be here. Thank you.
Watching online, I think it's important. One of the politicians said earlier, we need to trust people with information, and I think that's where we can start here. We need new ways to think about the direction of Métis education in British Columbia. I think we need to advance big ideas. Education is at the center of our future. Part of what I do is I work as a consultant. This has been developing in my life out of my graduate work as a graduate student, and I acknowledge Dr. Bruce Shelby in the back of the room from Trinity Western University. and there's others out there that perhaps aren't here that are involved with the type of work that I do as an emerging public historian. The idea that history has a place in the public domain, and isn't that, rather, it's so important with Aboriginal communities to understand that their history is front and center in the public domain along with mainstream history.